She used to sleep with her back pressed into me. Even now, 8 months into the pregnancy, her body swollen and soft in new ways, she still curled toward me at night, or at least, she used to. Last night was different. She lay near the edge of the bed, her breathing quiet, arms curled around her belly like I wasn't even there. I reached out, gently tracing my fingers across the curve of her hip, the one that had grown fuller, heavier with life. She didn't flinch. But she didn't lean in, either. "Can't sleep?" I whispered. "No," she said, eyes still closed. "Baby's kicking." I smiled in the dark. Maybe she knows I'm awake. "You always say that." This time, she didn't smile. I shifted closer, pressing a soft kiss against her shoulder, breathing in the warm scent of lavender from her skin. But under it, something else. Subtle. A cologne I didn't recognize. Not mine. I froze for just a second. She shifted. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I lied. "Just thinking." She reached back and found my hand. Guided it over her stomach. Our daughter rolled beneath my palm like a wave beneath silk. "She's restless," she whispered. Like she already knows too much. I almost laughed. But something about the way she said it. Too much. The next morning, I found her phone buzzing on the counter. She never used to keep it face down. Now it always was. I wasn't the type to snoop. Never had been. But when I picked it up to pass it to her, the screen lit up. "Jason, work." Last night was unreal. I stood there, phone in hand, heart hammering like a warning bell. Claire stepped into the room, one hand on her belly, the other brushing her hair out of her eyes. "You okay?" she asked, casually. "Yeah," I said. "Your phone buzzed." She took it quickly. Too quickly. "Oh. Just project updates." "From Jason." "Jason," I repeated. "From work." She nodded. Then leaned in and kissed me softly on the mouth. Warm. Familiar. And for 1 second, I believed it. But the moment she turned away, I smelled it again. Cologne. Not mine. Not soap. Not laundry. Something bolder. Deeper. I stood there, anchored in the middle of our kitchen, staring at the back of the woman I loved, carrying my child, and I felt the first splinter of something I never thought I'd feel with her. Distrust. That night, she put on the gray silk nightgown I'd bought her last Valentine's Day. It still fit. Barely. But it clung to her new curves like memory and desire at once. She stood at the mirror, brushing her hair slowly. I watched from bed, half entranced, half afraid. When she finally slid beneath the sheets, I reached for her again. She didn't resist. My hand moved across her belly, her hips, her thighs, slow, reverent, like I was touching a dream I didn't want to wake from. Her skin was warm. Her breath caught when I kissed her collarbone. We didn't speak. And when she finally let me inside that moment, it felt like maybe we were still us. But afterward, as she turned away to sleep, her back facing me again, I opened my eyes to the ceiling. She hadn't said, "I love you." She always said it. Every time. Even when we were too tired, too stressed, too busy preparing for a baby we weren't ready for. But tonight, nothing. Just silence. And that scent. The next morning, she was humming in the shower. It was a soft, almost childlike melody, something from an old song, something she hadn't sung since before the pregnancy. I stood outside the door, listening. Not in a creepy way. Just, trying to remember what it used to feel like to be close to her without suspicion poisoning the air. The bathroom mirror was fogged up when I stepped inside. "Mind if I join you?" I asked gently. She paused. Then, after a moment, "Sure." She didn't sound surprised. Or thrilled. Just, accepting. I slipped in behind her, warm water cascading down her back. Her body had changed in so many beautiful, unfamiliar ways, the fullness of her hips, the arch of her back, the soft swell of her belly as it moved with our daughter. I reached for her slowly, like prayer. My hands moved over her stomach, her sides, up her arms. She relaxed into me, not fully, but enough for the illusion to return for a moment. Then my hand slid to her upper thigh. And I froze. A bruise. Faint. But wide. Purple-blue, like a fingerprint pressed too hard. "Babe?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What happened here?" She looked down. Saw it. Then turned away just a little too fast. "Oh, probably bumped into the counter," she said. "I've been clumsy lately." Her tone was breezy. Too breezy. "Are you sure?" I asked, gently. She smiled, but didn't meet my eyes. "Jack, don't be paranoid." Paranoid. She used to call me, careful. Now I was paranoid. She rinsed the shampoo from her hair, the conversation clearly over. I didn't press. But my gut was screaming. That afternoon, I waited until she went for her walk. Claire had started walking alone every evening around 4 p.m. Lately, said it helped her back, helped her breathe. She always came back refreshed, glowing. I always told her to take her time. But this time, as soon as the door shut, I grabbed her phone. It was locked, of course. But she once told me her passcode was her due date. A sentimental choice. A mom thing. I typed it in. Unlocked. My hands shook. I didn't want to do this. I hated this version of myself. The man who checked his pregnant wife's messages. But I couldn't unsee the bruise. I couldn't unsmell that cologne. I opened her texts. There was no Jason. Not anymore. But there was J. Just the initial. The thread was short. Mostly cleared. Except one message, still visible, maybe missed in the panic. "Don't leave a mark next time. He's starting to notice." I sat down hard. Like my knees forgot how to hold me. When she returned, she was glowing again. Red in the cheeks. Hair messy in that post-run kind of way. She leaned over to kiss me. I turned my face. She paused. "What's wrong?" I stood. Slow. Careful. "What's his name?" I asked. Her eyes widened, but only for a moment. Then she blinked. Recovered. "Who?" "The one who's been leaving bruises on your body. The one whose cologne you wear home. The one you text while I'm sitting across from you at dinner." Silence. The bathroom fan hummed in the distance. "Jack," she finally said. "Don't do this. I'm pregnant. And I'm your husband." My voice cracked. She stared at me. But not with shame. With defense. With strategy. "I don't want to talk about this," she said. "It's not good for the baby." The baby. Our daughter. Growing inside a woman I didn't recognize anymore. That night, she slept facing away again. And this time, I didn't reach for her. I lay awake for hours, wondering how long she'd been gone, not physically, but emotionally. Wondering if the baby stirred inside her when someone else touched her belly. Wondering if our child could already feel the betrayal forming around her like a storm. There's a specific kind of silence that comes after a lie you didn't want to uncover. It's not rage. Not even sadness. It's a weight. A slow, sinking pressure in your chest, like the floor beneath your life is beginning to rot. That's what it felt like the next morning. Claire was in the kitchen, humming again. She poured orange juice with the same calm, habitual rhythm she'd always had. smiled when I walked in. Her hair was damp from a shower, clipped up in that lazy way I used to love. Her belly rested lightly against the counter, and for one wild moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd imagined everything. I wanted to believe that. God, I did. But the bruise was real. The cologne was real. And the message? Burned into my memory like a scar that wouldn't close. I went outside to get the mail, mostly just to breathe. The air was sharp with morning, the kind that stings the skin and clears the head. Bills. A magazine. A flyer for some realtor. And one envelope. No return address. No handwriting. Just my name, typed in clean black letters. Inside was a photo. I recognized the room instantly, not because I'd been there, but because I knew the comforter. It was ours. The guest room set. Pale blue with the embroidered corners we picked out at Target during our first year of marriage. The same one Claire said she donated to charity last winter. In the photo, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, her nightgown bunched around her thighs, her swollen belly framed between parted legs. Her hair was messy, her face flushed, her eyes unfocused, like she'd just been kissed breathless. And the worst part? The man's hand. Again. But this time, on her knee. Firm. Possessive. His thumb pressed into her skin like he had the right to be there. No face. Just that. I dropped the photo like it burned. Stumbled backward onto the porch steps, clutching the railing like it could hold me upright. She had brought him into our home. Not just into her body. Into the world we built. Into the space meant for our family. That night, I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I found myself going back to a memory. One I hadn't touched in months. Maybe years. It was after our second miscarriage. We'd driven out to the lake, no plan, just silence and heartbreak between us. The cabin we rented had one bed, stiff and too small, but that night we held each other like drowning people clinging to the same wreckage. She cried against my chest. I kissed every tear. And when we finally made love, it wasn't about passion. It was about survival. About trying to stitch ourselves back together through skin and breath and trembling hands. Afterward, she lay on top of me, her hair damp with tears, her cheek resting over my heartbeat. I remember her saying, "You're my home." I believed her. More than anything else in the world, I believed her. Now, she slept a few feet away from me, curled toward the edge of the bed, clutching the baby inside her like a secret. And I stared at the ceiling, holding a photograph that felt like a murder weapon, not of her body, but of everything we were. I didn't know who sent it. Or why. But I knew what it meant. This wasn't about one mistake. This was a life she was building without me, piece by piece, touch by touch. And I'd been sleeping beside it the whole time. I didn't plan to follow her. But when Claire left the house that Saturday afternoon, in makeup she never wore for me anymore, in that black maternity dress that clung to her curves like a whisper, something inside me shifted. She said she was going to the farmer's market. Alone. Again. It was the third market trip this week. I waited 2 minutes. Then grabbed my keys. I wasn't thinking clearly. Maybe I didn't want to. All I knew was that I needed to see it. I needed to rip the bandage off and feel the truth, no matter how much it bled. She didn't go to the market. She went to a hotel. Not a sleazy roadside one, a boutique hotel with glass doors and ivy growing along the brick. Downtown. Hidden. Tasteful. She walked in like she'd been there before. I parked across the street and sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. 15 minutes passed. Then I saw him. A tall man in a dark blue sweater and jeans. Athletic. Clean cut. Confident. He walked in casually, carrying nothing but his phone and a bottle of water. And then, not even a full minute later, I saw the curtains in a second-floor window shift. Just a fraction. I got out of the car. Walked across the street like I belonged to the sidewalk. Past the front desk. Past the elevator. I didn't stop, just glanced up, saw the room number when the receptionist turned to answer a phone call. Room 206. I didn't go up. I couldn't. But I stood in the hallway near the stairwell. Waited. Counted the minutes. And then, around the 40-minute mark, I made the mistake of glancing up again. The door to 206 hadn't opened. But the curtains had. And through the sheer white fabric, I saw her silhouette. Claire. Back arched slightly as she stood near the bed, belly framed in soft light, hair loose. Her head tilted back in what looked like laughter, or release. His hands on her waist, steady, familiar. They weren't naked. I couldn't see skin. But I could see closeness. The kind of closeness I hadn't shared with her in weeks. She leaned into him, her arms wrapping around his shoulders, and his face dipped toward her neck. He kissed her. Slowly. Repeatedly. Like he was memorizing every inch of her. It was the way I used to kiss her when I still believed we had forever. The curtain shifted again, and they disappeared from view. I stood there frozen. Air wouldn't come. My wife. 8 months pregnant. In a hotel room with another man's hands on her hips, and my daughter growing inside her. I didn't know how long I stood there before walking back to my car. But I remember the sky. It was a perfect shade of blue. The kind of sky people take photos under. The kind that makes you believe the world is good. And I had never hated it more. That night, she came home glowing. She kissed my cheek. Said the market was crowded. Laughed as she took off her shoes. I asked nothing. She offered nothing. Instead, she walked into the bedroom, humming again, and I sat in the dark kitchen, staring at my own reflection in the oven door. I thought about the way he touched her. The way her body leaned into him, like muscle memory. And I thought about the last time she had leaned into me that way. It had been weeks ago. Maybe more. We were in bed, her back to me. I had reached for her in the quiet of early morning, brushing her hair aside, placing a kiss between her shoulder blades. She didn't say anything, just took my hand and placed it gently on her stomach. We stayed like that for nearly an hour. Not speaking. Just breathing. And now I couldn't tell if that moment had meant anything to her at all. Later, while she showered, I opened her nightstand drawer. I wasn't proud of it, I didn't care anymore. I found a receipt folded in half. Room 206. Boutique Ivy Hotel. 2 glasses of sparkling water. 1 fruit plate. Time, 1:38 p.m. She had saved it. She kept the memory. The rain came that night, soft at first, then heavier, like the sky had finally broken under its own weight. She lay beside me, belly round and still, eyes closed. Her breaths came slow and steady, but I could feel she wasn't really asleep. Just pretending. Just like I was pretending not to notice the quiet ache between us. I couldn't stop thinking about her body in that hotel room. The way she leaned into him. The way he looked at her like she wasn't carrying another man's child, like she belonged entirely to him. I got out of bed. Quietly. Tiptoed past the creaky board near the closet and walked down the hallway, into the attic. I hadn't opened the shoebox in years. It held old photos. Receipts. And a letter I wrote her 10 years ago. I had planned to give it to her the night I proposed. It wasn't anything poetic. Just a clumsy attempt at honesty, me, trying to put into words why she was everything I didn't know I needed. The letter said things like, "You make the air feel safer. You taught me what kindness sounds like in the dark. You make me want to be more than I am, not for you, but for the chance to deserve you. She never read it. I never gave it to her. Not because I changed my mind, but because she said yes before I could. She cried when I asked, kissed me before I finished the sentence. I thought love like that was permanent. But now, holding that letter, all I could feel was how far we drifted from those words. From that version of us. In the morning, she was already dressed. Sitting on the edge of the bed, tying her shoes with slow, deliberate motions. Going somewhere? I asked. She nodded. Just a walk. Her voice was flat. Almost polite. I watched her stand, fix her hair in the mirror. Then she said, "Please don't make this harder than it already is." There was no fight in her tone. No regret, either. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was a stone. She walked to the door, paused. And without turning around, she added, "We both knew it wasn't working. We just didn't want to admit it." Then she left. And with her, the last piece of hope I didn't even know I was still holding. The house was too quiet. No music. No humming. No scent of lavender in the hallway. Claire hadn't come home the night before. She said it was her sister's couch. I didn't believe her. Still, I went through the motions that morning, made coffee, watered the plants she used to love, packed mason jars of dry cereal for the baby that wasn't here yet. Then I tripped over the box. It was at the back of the nursery closet, half tucked behind a pile of unused diapers. A cardboard box with handwriting I recognized immediately. For the hospital bag. And after. But it wasn't filled with baby blankets or wipes. Inside were photo albums. Letters. Her journal. A printed plane ticket. And at the bottom, a folded baby onesie, smaller than I remembered, with the words, "Hello, I'm new here," across the chest. The price tag still on it. I sat on the nursery floor, holding that onesie in both hands, feeling like a stranger in my own home. I opened the journal next. Not because I wanted to invade her privacy, but because she had already burned ours to the ground. The first entry was dated 2 months ago. I feel like I'm watching my life happen to someone else. He still looks at me like he sees me. I wish I could say the same. I'm scared I'm not the right person to be a mother. Not to his child. His child. Not our child. Further down the page, I found this. I'm not strong enough to tell him the baby might not be his. Not after everything he's done for me. He doesn't deserve that. But neither does Ethan. I don't even know if I want either of them anymore. The room tilted. It was like falling without hitting the ground. I didn't even hear the door open. Didn't realize she had come back until I heard her soft steps behind me. She didn't speak right away. Just stood in the doorway, arms crossed under her belly. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said finally. My voice cracked when I replied. "Is she mine?" She didn't answer. Not yes. Not no. Just silence. The cruelest answer of all. I stood. Faced her fully. "I would have loved her either way," I said. "You know that." "I know," she whispered. "And you still chose this?" She wiped a tear with the back of her hand. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about feeling alive. You made me feel safe. But he made me feel seen. I nodded slowly. "And now? I don't know who I am with either of you." She left the box behind when she walked out again. Didn't even glance at it. And I didn't stop her this time. Because I finally understood, she wasn't choosing him. She was choosing away from me. The call came at 2:11 a.m. I was half awake, lying on the couch with the TV still glowing blue in the dark. Claire's name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. "It's happening," she said, voice tight. Contractions are 5 minutes apart. I'm going to Mercy. Then silence. She didn't ask me to come. But I went anyway. Hospitals at night are strange places, too quiet, too clean, too full of life and fear all tangled together. At the front desk, I gave her name. The nurse didn't ask who I was. Just waved me down the hall. Room 308. When I stepped inside, she was already in the bed, sweaty hair clinging to her forehead, eyes closed between contractions. A nurse adjusted the four, calm and practiced. Ethan wasn't there. I stood in the doorway for a long time before Claire noticed me. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in weeks, there was no wall between us. Just exhaustion. And pain. And something deeper. I didn't think you'd come, she whispered. I wasn't going to let her come into this world without someone who already loves her, I said. Claire turned her face away, and I saw tears slide into the pillow. The birth was slow. 9 hours. I stayed the whole time. I held her hand when she screamed. I helped her breathe. I wiped her forehead. And when our daughter finally arrived, red and wrinkled and furious at the world, the nurse looked at Claire first. Then at me. You want to hold her? Claire nodded. And they placed the baby in my arms. She was so small. So quiet, once I held her close. Her fists clenched. Eyes squeezed shut. And when she opened them for a moment, just one moment, I thought I saw something I didn't expect. Peace. She didn't know about the lies. Or the bruises. Or the tears. She didn't know about the hotel rooms or the things her mother never said. She just knew arms. Warmth. A heartbeat. Mine. Claire slept after that. The baby curled beside her in the bassinet. I stood by the window, watching dawn break over the city. I didn't know if she was mine biologically. Maybe I'd find out someday. Maybe not. But in that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was this. I had shown up. I had stayed. I had held my daughter and made her feel safe, even when everything else was broken. We didn't reconcile. Claire moved in with her sister. Ethan was gone within weeks. She never gave me a straight answer about paternity. But she didn't fight me when I asked to keep our daughter most nights. She didn't stop me from naming her, Hope. Because that's what she became. A new beginning, not because of forgiveness, but because of choice. I chose to love her. I chose to stay standing. I chose to become the man I once promised I would be, not for Claire, but for the tiny heartbeat I'd held at 3:42 in the morning while the world outside was still.